Hello! I'm here today with a review of The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I recently finished reading this month in June, and I read it with the BookTube Reading Buddies for the Around the World Challenge, and I'll link to the BookTube Reading Buddies Goodreads group down below in case you are interested in checking that out. This book was published in 2013. It's about 830 pages long, so it's quite large, and the author is from New Zealand. This book did win the Man Booker Prize in 2014, and Eleanor Catton is the youngest author to have ever won a Man Booker Prize, and this is actually the longest book to have ever won the Man Booker Prize as well. So that's very interesting. It's kind of difficult to describe the plot of this book. It's kind of a mystery. It's set in New Zealand in the mid-19th century during the gold rush, and it focuses on a ton of characters and kind of their interweaving stories. And of course, they all live in this new town that has been set up in New Zealand for profit making via gold. And it's quite a fascinating tale. It's not at all quick paced because she wrote the book to kind of mimic a sort of traditional 19th century kind of Victorian style novel. So the language is a little bit antiquated in that regard, but I really loved it personally. I will say as a disclaimer that if you don't like the language and you get like 50 or 100 pages into this book, then you're not going to like it. Like, it doesn't change. So if you're not into that, just drop it. I did end up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really beautiful. It's probably more like 4.5-ish. It, once again, and I just talked about this in my review of The Secret History, it had one of those endings that was wrapped up like a little bit too neatly for me. Like, she filled in a couple too many holes for me that I would have better liked to just wonder about. But that seems to be a personal hang-up of mine with books in general. So there's that. Also, one thing that's interesting about this book is that each section of the book starts, let's see if I can find that. There should be one at the very beginning. Starts like so, and I hope you can see that. So yeah, there's like this astrological star chart thing, and they obviously change depending on what part of the book we're in. I think there's 8 or 9 parts, which I don't understand at all because I know very, very little about astronomy and astrology, so that kind of went right over my head in the end. There are a ton of themes in this book. Like, anything of this length with this much depth, you're going to find so much to talk about. A couple of the things that I really liked that she did is that she looked at all of the cultural intersections in New Zealand at this time. So there were a lot of Chinese workers in New Zealand working in the gold mines who were basically indentured servants. And she also touches on the native Maori, I think that's how you say it, people of New Zealand. There's a Maori character and kind of how he feels about all of it a little bit. And then, of course, there are all of these people coming over mostly from the UK who also are trying to escape their pasts. So I really enjoyed looking at how all of those different people kind of interacted and what their roles became within this colony of sorts. Another thing that she does really well is that the beginning of this story is the end of this story, and the end of this story is the beginning of this story, but not in a way that it's told backwards necessarily, but in a way that the whole story comes full circle, which I thought was really beautifully done. And I'm sure that that has something to do with the astrological things. I was talking to Yamini from The Skeptical Reader about this book because she just read it as well, and she pointed out to me that those little charts in the beginning of each part had kind of come full circle by the end of it. So that was really interesting. Other than that, this book definitely touches on kind of the fragility of the human experience and how one small incident can set great events into motion, and how one person's seemingly small actions can impact other people's lives, which I also very much enjoyed. So yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it. I could go on for days. Again, it's a huge novel. I highly recommend picking this up I was very daunted by it when I bought it, but I'd heard so many great things and I really wanted to get to it, and I generally enjoy books that have won the Man Booker Prize, so I really wanted to do it, and then finally I just picked it up, and it was a little bit slow going at first, but not terrible. But by the end, I was so invested with all of the characters, and again, there are a lot of characters to keep straight. She does have this handy chart at the beginning, though, that kind of details who they are and like where they work and stuff, so that was good for reference. I really thought she marvelously, I can say words, intertwined their stories. Like, it is really, really fascinating how well written this book is and how much planning and research must have gone into it for her to achieve this end. So yes, if you have read this book or have any questions about it, please let me know in the comments. I would love to talk about it. If you have any recommendations for me based on how much I enjoyed this book, I would also love to hear those. And hopefully I will be talking to you all again soon. Bye!